I trusted my wife of 22 years with everything. Our joint bank account, our mortgage payments, our future retirement plans. Sarah had always been the responsible one, the one who organized our finances down to the last penny. So when I came home from my business trip to Chicago and found our mortgage account completely emptied, I thought there had to be some terrible mistake. Sarah, honey, I'm looking at our Wells Fargo account online, and it's showing zero balance. Did you transfer the money somewhere else? I called out as I dropped my suitcase in our Denver suburban home. The silence that followed felt heavier than the Colorado mountain air. She emerged from our bedroom looking disheveled, her usually perfect blonde hair in a messy bun, wearing clothes I'd never seen before, flowing fabrics in earth tones that seemed completely unlike her typical business attire. "John, we need to talk," she said, avoiding my eyes. My heart started racing. In 22 years of marriage, Sarah had never looked at me like that, like I was a stranger. "What's going on? Where's the mortgage money? We have the payment due in 5 days." "I used it for something important," she said, wrapping her arms around herself. "Something that's going to change everything for us, for our future." "You used our mortgage money? Sarah, that's $15,000. What could possibly be so important that you'd risk our home?" My voice was rising, something that rarely happened in our relationship. She took a deep breath and sat down on our leather couch, the one we'd bought together when we first moved to this house in Highlands Ranch. "I went to a spiritual retreat in Sedona. There's this amazing teacher, this guru, who's helping people unlock their true potential. John, I've discovered things about myself, about us, about life that I never knew existed." I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. "You spent $15,000 on a spiritual retreat, without telling me. Sarah, this is our house we're talking about, our home for the past 12 years. Money is just energy, John. You wouldn't understand because you're still trapped in the material world, but Master Kai has shown me that we can manifest abundance in ways you can't even imagine." Her eyes had this strange, distant look, like she was seeing something I couldn't. "Master Kai? Who the hell is Master Kai? And why did you need $15,000 to find yourself spiritually? People go to church for free, Sarah." I was pacing now, my business shoes clicking against our hardwood floors. "It's not just about finding myself, it's about us, John. About breaking free from the chains of conventional thinking. Master Kai has taught me that our marriage has been built on false foundations, on societal expectations, rather than true spiritual connection." The words hit me like a physical blow. False foundations? Sarah, we've been together since college. We built this life together. We were going to retire together, travel to Ireland like we always planned. Those were dreams based on illusion, John. I see that now. Master Kai has opened my eyes to what real love looks like, what authentic partnership means. She stood up and moved toward the window, looking out at our carefully maintained garden. Something in her tone, the way she said his name, made my stomach turn. "Sarah, please tell me you didn't have an affair with this guy." She turned around quickly, her face flushing. "It's not an affair when it's a spiritual awakening. You wouldn't understand the depth of connection we share. It transcends physical limitations." I felt like the floor was falling out from under me. "So, you did sleep with him. You took our mortgage money, went to Arizona and had sex with some con artist calling himself a guru." "Stop reducing everything to such base terms," she snapped. "Master Kai and I have a soul connection that you and I never had. He's helping me become who I'm meant to be." I sat down hard in my recliner, the same chair where I'd watched countless Broncos games, where I'd read bedtime stories to our neighbors' kids when we babysat. "Sarah, do you hear yourself? Do you realize what you're saying? You're talking about throwing away 2 decades of marriage for a man you just met." "I've been unhappy for years, John, going through the motions, pretending everything was fine. But it wasn't fine. We weren't growing, we weren't evolving. We were just existing in this suburban bubble, counting down the days until retirement, like that's all life has to offer." Her words stung because there was a grain of truth in them. We had fallen into routines, comfortable patterns that maybe had become too comfortable, but that didn't justify what she was doing. So instead of talking to me about it, instead of suggesting counseling or taking a vacation together, you decided to empty our bank account and run off with a stranger. He's not a stranger. I've been following his teachings online for months. I've been attending his virtual sessions, learning from him. When he announced this intensive retreat in Sedona, I knew it was a sign from the universe. Following him for months, I stood up again, anger and hurt warring in my chest. You've been planning this behind my back. Sarah, that's not spiritual awakening. That's betrayal. I knew you wouldn't understand. You've always been so practical, so focused on money and security and maintaining the status quo. But there's more to life than mortgage payments and 401k contributions, John. I looked around our living room, at the photos of us on various vacations, at the books we'd both read and discussed, at the life we'd built together. This life we created isn't the status quo to me, Sarah. It's love. It's partnership. It's choosing each other every day for 22 years. She shook her head, tears starting to form in her eyes. But that's just it, John. We stopped choosing each other years ago. We just went through the motions because it was easier than admitting we'd grown apart. Maybe she was right about growing apart, but I couldn't accept that this was the solution. Even if that's true, don't you think we owed it to ourselves, to our marriage, to try to fix things together? Instead of you making unilateral decisions that affect both our lives. I tried to talk to you so many times, but you were always busy with work, with your projects, with everything except us. When was the last time we had a real conversation about our dreams, our fears, our hopes for the future? I opened my mouth to argue, but realized I couldn't immediately answer that question. When had we stopped really talking? When had we become two people sharing a house instead of partners sharing a life? Okay, maybe you're right about us getting disconnected, but Sarah, taking our mortgage money wasn't the answer, and having an affair certainly wasn't the answer. We could have worked on this together. It's too late for that now, she said quietly. I'm not the same person who left for Sedona 2 weeks ago. Master Kai has shown me possibilities I never knew existed. I can't go back to sleepwalking through life. What are you saying exactly? She took a shuddering breath. I'm saying I want a divorce, John. I'm going back to Sedona next week, and this time I'm not coming back. Master Kai has invited me to join his inner circle, to help him spread his teachings. It's my calling. The room seemed to tilt, 22 years, reduced to this moment. You're leaving me for a cult leader you just met. He's not a cult leader, he's an enlightened being. And I'm not just leaving you, I'm choosing a different path, a path toward truth and authentic living. I walked to the kitchen, needing some distance to process this. Our mortgage payment was due in 5 days. I had maybe $3,000 in my personal checking account. Our savings were gone, spent on Sarah's spiritual awakening. Sarah, even if you want a divorce, we still have practical matters to handle, like the fact that our house is about to go into foreclosure. The universe will provide, she said, following me into the kitchen. When you stop clinging to material possessions, abundance flows naturally. The universe didn't pay for this house for 12 years, Sarah. We did. With real jobs and real money and real commitment to our responsibilities. I was leaning against our granite countertop, the one we'd saved up for 3 years to install. That's exactly the kind of thinking that keeps people trapped in cycles of fear and limitation. Master Kai has taught me that when you align with your true purpose, the universe supports you in ways that transcend conventional understanding. I studied my wife's face, looking for some sign of the woman I'd married, the practical accountant who used to laugh at get-rich-quick schemes and crystal healing. Sarah, do you have any idea how you sound right now? This isn't enlightenment, it's delusion. I expected you to react this way. Master Kai warned me that people closest to us often resist our spiritual growth the most because it threatens their own comfort zones. Master Kai warned you? I felt a chill run down my spine. How convenient that he prepared you for my reaction. Almost like he's done this before with other married women. Don't try to poison this for me, John. I've finally found my purpose, my true calling. I'm not going to let your fear and negativity pull me back into that grey existence we were living. I pulled out my laptop and opened it on the kitchen island. What's this guy's full name? Where exactly in Sedona is his retreat center? Why? Sarah asked, instantly defensive. Because I want to know who I'm losing my wife and my house to. I want to understand what kind of man convinced my wife to steal our mortgage money. I didn't steal anything. It's our money, and I used it for our spiritual development, Just because you can't see the value doesn't mean it was theft. I started typing Master Kai Sedona Retreat into Google. $15,000, Sarah, for 2 weeks. That's more than $1,000 a day. What exactly were you paying for? It wasn't just about the accommodations. It was about the teachings, the personalized guidance, the transformation sessions. Master Kai doesn't work with just anyone. Being accepted into his programs is an honor. The search results were loading, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Kai Patel, real name David Mitchell, arrested in California in 2019 for fraud. Previously ran a fake investment scheme in Nevada. Sarah, your spiritual teacher, is a con artist with a criminal record. She moved quickly to look over my shoulder at the screen. That's not possible. You're looking at the wrong person. I clicked on a news article from the Sedona Red Rock News. Listen to this. Local authorities are investigating reports of a self-proclaimed spiritual teacher who has allegedly defrauded multiple women of significant sums of money through promises of spiritual advancement and romantic relationships. The suspect, operating under the name Master Kai, has reportedly convinced married women to leave their families and donate money to his organization. Sarah's face went white. That article could be about anyone. There are probably lots of spiritual teachers in Sedona. I kept reading. The suspect is described as a 45-year-old man with shoulder-length dark hair and distinctive tattoos on both forearms. He operates from a compound approximately 15 miles outside Sedona city limits. John, stop it. You're trying to destroy something beautiful because you can't understand it. I turned the laptop toward her and clicked on a photo gallery. Is this your Master Kai? The photos showed a man being led away in handcuffs, and I watched Sarah's face crumble as she recognized him. I don't understand, she whispered. He was so wise, so caring. He made me feel like I was special, like I had a purpose. He made you feel special so you'd give him our mortgage money, Sarah. This is what con artists do. They find vulnerable people and tell them exactly what they want to hear. She sank onto one of our kitchen stools, her spiritual awakening fantasy collapsing around her. But the other women at the retreat, they all seemed so happy, so fulfilled. They were all being conned too. Sarah, look at this. I found another article. 3 women from his previous retreat in California ended up divorced and bankrupted. One of them lost her house, just like we're about to. Tears were streaming down her face now. I thought I was finally becoming who I was meant to be. I thought I'd found real love, real purpose. Despite everything, seeing her pain broke my heart. This was still the woman I'd loved for over 2 decades. Sarah, con artists are experts at making people feel that way. That's how they operate. They identify what you're missing in your life and promise to provide it. So everything he said to me was a lie. Every moment we shared, every revelation I thought I was having. I moved closer to her, careful not to seem threatening. I think he identified that you were feeling unfulfilled in our marriage and used that against you. He told you what you needed to hear to get what he wanted. God, John, what have I done? She put her head in her hands. I destroyed our marriage for a criminal. I gave away our house money to a man who's probably done this to dozens of other women. The money's gone, isn't it? There's no way to get it back? She nodded miserably. I gave it to him in cash. He said it was better for the energy exchange if there were no electronic traces. I thought he was being spiritual, but he was just being smart about not getting caught. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides. Our house, our security, our marriage, all of it gone because my wife fell for a smooth-talking criminal. Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Are there other women at this retreat who might still be there, who might still be in danger? There were 6 of us in the intensive program, all married, all looking for something more in our lives. Oh God, John, what if they're planning to give him money too? I was already reaching for my phone. I'm calling the Coconino County Sheriff's Office. They need to know he's still operating. Wait, Sarah grabbed my arm. If you call the police, everyone will know what I did. Our friends, our families, everyone will know I fell for this. Sarah, there are other women who might be getting conned right now. Women who might lose their houses and their marriages just like we did. We can't worry about embarrassment when people are being hurt. She released my arm and nodded slowly. You're right. Of course you're right. I've been thinking selfishly this whole time. As I dialed the sheriff's office, I looked at my wife sitting there in her flowing clothes, looking lost and broken. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her everything would be okay. But another part of me was furious that she'd been so naive, so willing to throw away everything we'd built together. Coconino County Sheriff's Office, came the voice on the phone. Hi, I need to report a fraud case involving a man calling himself Master Kai. My wife was victimized by him, along with several other women, and I believe he's still operating a retreat center outside Sedona. As I gave the deputy all the information I had, Sarah sat silently, occasionally nodding when I looked to her for confirmation of details. When I hung up, the kitchen felt unnaturally quiet. They're going to investigate, I said. They asked if you'd be willing to give a statement. Yes, of course, whatever I can do to help stop him from hurting other people. I sat down across from her at our kitchen island, this piece of furniture where we'd shared thousands of meals and conversations over the years. Sarah, I need to understand something. Even if this guy hadn't been a criminal, even if he'd been exactly what he claimed to be, you were still planning to leave me. The fraud doesn't change the fact that you were ready to end our marriage. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. I was so unhappy, John. I felt like I was disappearing, like I was just going through the motions of being alive. When Kai started paying attention to me, when he made me feel like I was interesting and desirable and important, it was like someone had turned the lights back on in my life. But why didn't you talk to me about feeling that way? Why didn't you give us a chance to fix things before you decided to blow everything up? I tried, John. Maybe not directly, but I tried. I suggested we take that pottery class together, remember? You said you were too busy with the Henderson project. I wanted us to go to that couple's retreat in Vail, but you said it was too expensive. I kept hoping you'd notice that I was struggling, that I needed more from you, from us. I thought back over the past few years, trying to remember those conversations. Had I been so focused on work, on our financial security, that I'd missed the signs that my wife was drowning? I remember those things, but I didn't realize they were cries for help. I thought they were just suggestions. That's part of the problem, though. We stopped really seeing each other. I became just the person who handled the household logistics, and you became just the person who brought home the paycheck. We weren't lovers anymore, or even really friends. We were just two people who shared a mortgage. Her words hurt because they contained truth. When had we stopped being curious about each other? When had we stopped making an effort to connect on a deeper level? So what do we do now? I asked. I don't know, she said quietly. I've destroyed everything. Our finances, our trust, our future. I don't even know who I am anymore. I thought I was becoming enlightened, but really I was just being incredibly selfish and stupid. The next few hours passed in a blur of phone calls. I called our mortgage company to explain the situation and ask for an extension. I called my brother in Texas to see if he could loan us some money. I called our lawyer to understand our options. Through it all, Sarah sat at the kitchen table making her own calls, to the sheriff's office to arrange giving her statement, to the other women from the retreat to warn them about Kai's true identity. By evening, we'd managed to piece together a temporary solution. My brother could wire us $10,000, enough to make the mortgage payment and buy us some time. Our lawyer explained that while we could potentially sue David Mitchell, actually recovering the money would be nearly impossible since he'd likely spent it or hidden it offshore. The good news is that the sheriff's office has been building a case against him for months, our lawyer explained over the phone. Your wife's testimony could be the final piece they need to arrest him. The bad news is that even if he's convicted, restitution is unlikely. After all the calls were finished, Sarah and I found ourselves alone in our house for the first time since she'd returned from Sedona. The silence felt different now. Not comfortable like it used to be, but not hostile either. Just empty. John, she said finally, I know I have no right to ask this, but is there any chance you could forgive me? Any chance we could try to rebuild from this? I looked at her across our living room, this woman I'd shared my adult life with. The betrayal was still fresh, the financial damage real and significant, but underneath all that pain I could see the person I'd fallen in love with in college, confused, vulnerable, human. I don't know, Sarah. The money I can eventually get over, Money can be replaced, but the lying, the cheating, the complete disregard for our partnership, that's going to take a lot of work to get past. I understand. I just want you to know that everything I said about us growing apart, about feeling disconnected, that was real. The way I handled it was completely wrong, but the underlying problems were real. You're right. We did grow apart. We did stop making an effort with each other. But normal people talk to marriage counselors when that happens, Sarah. They don't run off with con artists and steal the mortgage money. She winced at my words, but didn't argue. I know. I made the worst possible choices at every step. I don't even fully understand how I convinced myself it was okay. 2 weeks later, we sat in the Coconino County Sheriff's Office as Sarah gave her official statement. David Mitchell had been arrested along with 2 associates. They'd found evidence of similar schemes in 4 other states. Sarah's testimony helped establish a pattern of behavior that would likely result in serious federal charges. Your wife's cooperation has been invaluable, Detective Rodriguez told me as we left the building. This guy has destroyed a lot of marriages and bankrupted a lot of families. Getting him off the streets will prevent other people from going through what you've experienced. On the drive back to Denver, Sarah and I talked more honestly than we had in years, about our marriage, our mistakes, our uncertain future. We'd started seeing a counselor, Dr. Patricia Chen, who specialized in couples recovering from infidelity and financial betrayal. The path forward isn't going to be easy, Dr. Chen had told us in our first session. Trust, once broken this severely, takes years to rebuild, and it requires both partners to be completely committed to doing the hard work of understanding how the relationship broke down in the first place. Sarah had moved into our guest bedroom, and we were taking things one day at a time. Some days were better than others. Some days I looked at her and felt nothing but anger and betrayal. Other days I glimpsed the woman I'd married and felt hope that we might find our way back to each other. The financial recovery was slow but steady. My brother's loan got us through the immediate crisis, and I'd picked up some freelance consulting work to help rebuild our savings. Sarah had gone back to her accounting job, though the stress of everything had taken a visible toll on her. 3 months after Sedona, we were sitting in our backyard on a warm Colorado evening, something we hadn't done together in longer than I could remember. Sarah was reading a book, a normal book, not anything about spiritual awakening or finding your true purpose. I got a call today from one of the other women from the retreat, she said, looking up from her book. Amanda, the one from Phoenix. She wanted to thank me for calling her that night. Apparently, she was planning to give Kai another $20,000 the next week. That's good. I'm glad she avoided that. She also said something interesting. She said that going through this experience, as horrible as it was, made her realize she needed to work on her real marriage instead of running away from it. She and her husband are in counseling now too. I nodded, pulling weeds from our flower bed. We'd let the garden get overgrown during all the chaos, but it was starting to look maintained again. Dr. Chen says trauma can sometimes create opportunities for growth if people are willing to do the work. Do you think we'll make it, John? Do you think we can rebuild something real from all this wreckage? I looked at her in the fading light, this woman who'd betrayed me and lied to me and nearly destroyed our life together, but also the woman who'd had the courage to testify against her abuser, who was working hard in counseling, who was slowly becoming someone I recognized again. I think we have a chance, I said carefully. Not to go back to what we were, that wasn't working for either of us, but maybe to build something better, something more honest and connected. She smiled for the first time in months, a real smile that reached her eyes. I'd like that. I'd like to try. As darkness fell over our suburban neighborhood, I realized that while Sarah's spiritual retreat had nearly destroyed us, it had also forced us to confront truths about our marriage that we'd been avoiding for years. The cost had been enormous, financially and emotionally. But maybe, just maybe, we'd emerge from this stronger and more committed to each other than we'd been in a very long time. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time since I'd discovered our empty bank account, I felt like we might actually have a future together worth fighting for.